Marcus Thompson woke up early that Saturday morning. The rain was hitting his bedroom window like tiny pebbles. He looked at the clock. It was 6 in the morning. His wife Sarah was still sleeping next to him. Marcus got out of bed quietly. He did not want to wake her up. He walked to the kitchen and made coffee. The smell filled the small house. Marcus was 68 years old. He had worked as a carpenter for 40 years. Now he was retired. His hands were rough from all those years of work. His back hurt sometimes, but he was happy to be done with the hard work. Marcus and Sarah lived on a small farm outside the town. They had 10 acres of land. Most of it was empty grass fields. They had a few chickens and an old barn. The barn needed some repair work. Marcus planned to fix it when the weather got better. Today Marcus was going to the county auction. It happened every month. People brought animals to sell. Farmers came to buy cows and pigs. Some people bought horses. Marcus was not looking for big animals. He wanted to buy some chickens. Their old chickens were not laying many eggs anymore. Marcus finished his coffee. He put on his work boots and old jacket. The jacket had paint stains on it from his carpenter days. He wrote a note for Sarah. It said he would be back by lunchtime. He left $20 on the kitchen table for her. The drive to the auction took 30 minutes. Marcus drove his old pickup truck. The truck was 15 years old. It still ran good. The rain was getting lighter now. Marcus could see other trucks and trailers on the road. They were all going to the same place. The auction was held at the county fairgrounds. There were big metal buildings and dirt parking lots. Marcus parked his truck and walked toward the main building. He could hear animals making noise. Cows were mooing. Pigs were making their sounds. Somewhere he could hear horses. Marcus paid his entry fee. It was $5. The man at the gate gave him a number card. It was number 43. Marcus would hold up this card if he wanted to buy something. The auction building was big and noisy. There were metal bleachers where people sat. In the middle was a dirt ring. This is where they brought the animals to sell. Around the ring were holding pens. Different animals waited in different areas. Marcus walked around to look at the chickens. First, he saw some good ones, young hens that would lay lots of eggs. He made notes on a piece of paper. He wrote down which chickens he might want to buy. As Marcus walked past the horse pens, something made him stop. In the far corner was a horse that looked different from the others. The horse was very thin. Marcus could see her ribs through her skin. Her coat was dirty and matted. Her head hung down low like she was very tired. Other people walked past this horse quickly. Some of them laughed. Marcus heard one man say to his friend, "Look at that old bag of bones. Who would want that thing?" The friend laughed and said, "Probably going straight to the dog food factory." But Marcus kept looking at the horse. She was a mare, a female horse. She had dark brown coat under all the dirt. Her mane was long but tangled. What made Marcus keep staring was her eyes. Even though her head was down, he could see her eyes. They were dark and sad. But there was something else there too, something that had not given up completely. Marcus had never owned a horse. He knew very little about horses. But something about this mare made him feel strange inside. Maybe it was because she looked so alone. All the other horses had people looking at them and talking about them. This mare stood by herself. No one cared about her. A young man who worked at the auction walked by. Marcus stopped him and asked, "What is wrong with that horse over there?" He pointed to the thin mare. The worker looked where Marcus was pointing. "Oh, that one. She came from a farm up north. The owner could not take care of her anymore. She has some kind of leg problem. Cannot walk right. Been like that for years. She is probably going to the meat buyers today." Marcus felt sick in his stomach. Meat buyers? Yeah, they buy horses that nobody else wants, use them for dog food and such things. Happens all the time. That horse is no good for riding or working. What else can you do with her? The worker walked away. Marcus stood there looking at the mare. She lifted her head a little and looked back at him. For just a moment their eyes met. Marcus felt something he could not explain. It was like the horse was asking him for help. Marcus walked closer to the pen. The mare did not move away. Most horses would step back when a stranger came near, but this horse just stood there. Marcus reached his hand through the fence. Very slowly, he touched her nose. Her skin was soft and warm. The mare did not pull away. "Hello there, girl," Marcus said quietly. His voice was gentle. "You have had a hard time, have you not?" The mare's ears moved forward a little. Horses do this when they are listening. Marcus had learned this from watching horses in movies. He kept his hand on her nose and talked to her in a soft voice. Other people were starting to gather for the auction. Marcus looked at his watch. It was almost 10 o'clock. The auction would start soon. He needed to go find a seat, but he did not want to leave this horse. Marcus walked to the bleachers and found a seat near the front. From here, he could see the holding pens. He could still see the thin mare standing alone in her corner. The auctioneer was setting up his microphone. Soon they would start bringing animals into the ring to sell them. Marcus thought about Sarah. She would be surprised if he came home with a horse. They had never talked about getting a horse. They barely had enough money for their monthly bills. Marcus got a small pension from his carpenter work. Sarah worked part-time at the grocery store. They were not poor, but they were not rich either. But Marcus could not stop thinking about the mare. Every time he looked at her, he felt the same strange feeling. It was like she was meant to be his horse. This did not make sense. Marcus was a practical man. He fixed things with his hands. He did not believe in feelings like this. The auctioneer started the sale. First, they brought out some pigs, then some cows. The farmers bid on them with their number cards. The prices were higher than Marcus expected. Everything was getting more expensive these days. After an hour, they started bringing out the horses. Beautiful horses with shiny coats came into the ring. People bid thousands of dollars for them. Marcus watched and waited. He knew the thin mare would come out last. The good animals always went first at auctions. Finally, near the end, a worker led the thin mare into the ring. She walked slowly, and Marcus could see she was limping on her back leg. Some people in the crowd laughed when they saw her. Marcus felt angry at them for laughing. The auctioneer looked at his papers. "This is lot number 47, he said, into his microphone. "Mare, age unknown, has some health issues as you can see. We will start the bidding at $50. Nobody raised their card. The auctioneer waited. "Come on, folks, $50 for this horse." Still nobody bid. People were talking to each other and not paying attention. Some got up to leave. $40 then, said the auctioneer. Surely someone wants her for $40. Nothing. Marcus looked around the crowd. Nobody cared about this horse. She stood in the middle of the ring looking scared and alone. $30. The auctioneer tried again. If nobody bids, she goes to the meat buyer. Marcus felt his heart beating fast. His hand was holding his number card. He knew he should not do this. It was crazy. He did not know anything about horses, but he could not let this happen. $25, said the auctioneer. Last chance before she goes for meat. Marcus raised his card high in the air. The auctioneer saw him and smiled. Thank you, sir. I have $25. Do I hear 30? Nobody else bid. The auctioneer counted down. 25 going once, going twice, sold to number 43. Marcus had just bought a horse. Marcus sat in his seat for a moment. He could not believe what he had just done. He owned a horse now, a horse he knew nothing about, a horse that nobody else wanted. The auctioneer was already calling the next lot. Marcus got up and walked toward the office to pay for his purchase. His legs felt shaky. What was he going to tell Sarah? How was he going to get this horse home? He did not have a horse trailer. At the office window, a woman took his money. $25 plus a $10 fee. $35 total. It was not a lot of money, but Marcus felt like he had just bought a very expensive problem. You need to pick up your horse from pen number 7, the woman said. She handed him a piece of paper. You have until 6 o'clock tonight to get her loaded and gone. Marcus walked back toward the holding pens. Other people were loading their animals into trailers. Big trucks with cattle trailers were backing up to the loading docks. Everything looked busy and organized. Marcus felt lost. He found pen number 7. The thin mare was still standing in the same spot. She looked at Marcus when he approached. Her eyes seemed to say, "Are you the one who bought me?" Marcus was not sure, but he thought she looked a little less sad than before. "Well, girl," Marcus said to her, "I guess you belong to me now. I hope I did the right thing." A man in work clothes walked up to Marcus. "You the one who bought this mare?" he asked. "Yes, that is me," Marcus replied. "You got a trailer to haul her?" Marcus felt embarrassed. "No, I do not. I did not plan to buy a horse today." The man looked at Marcus like he was crazy. "Well, you cannot leave her here. Auction ends at 6. She has to be gone by then." Marcus looked at his watch. It was already 2 o'clock. He had 4 hours to figure this out. "Is there somewhere I can rent a trailer?" he asked. "Pete's feed store down the road rents them," the man said. "But you better hurry. Saturday is a busy day for him." Marcus thanked the man and hurried to his truck. The drive to Pete's feed store took 15 minutes. Marcus was worried the whole way. What if they did not have any trailers left? What if it cost too much money? Pete's feed store was a big metal building with a gravel parking lot. There were several horse trailers parked behind the store. Marcus felt relief. He walked into the store and found Pete behind the counter. Pete was a big man with a gray beard. He looked like he had been around horses his whole life. "What can I do for you?" Pete asked. "I need to rent a horse trailer for a few hours," Marcus said. "I just bought a horse at the auction." Pete looked at Marcus carefully. "You ever hauled a horse before?" "No, sir, I have not." "What kind of horse did you buy?" Marcus felt uncomfortable. "Well, she is not in very good shape. She was the one nobody else wanted." Pete's face changed. He looked concerned. "You talking about that thin mare that was in the corner pen?" "Yes, that is the one." Pete shook his head. "Son, that horse is in bad trouble. I saw her when they brought her in yesterday. She can barely walk. What made you buy her?" Marcus did not know how to answer. "I just felt like I had to help her." Pete looked at Marcus for a long moment. Then he smiled a little. "Well, I respect that. But you got yourself a big challenge. That horse needs a lot of care. You know anything about taking care of horses?" "Not really," Marcus admitted. Pete walked around the counter. "Come on back. I will show you how to hook up a trailer, and I will give you some advice about that mare." Behind the store, Pete showed Marcus a small 2-horse trailer. It was old, but looked solid. Pete hitched it to Marcus's truck and showed him how the lights worked. "Now listen," Pete said. "That mare is probably scared and weak. Loading her might be hard. You go slow and be patient. Do not try to force her. If she falls down, you might not get her back up." Pete gave Marcus a lead rope and a halter. "You will need these to catch her and lead her. The halter goes on her head. The rope clips to the ring under her chin." Marcus practiced putting the halter on Pete's gentle old horse. It took him several tries to get it right. Pete was patient and showed him again and again. "Remember," Pete said, "horses can sense if you are scared or nervous. Try to stay calm. Talk to her in a quiet voice. Let her smell you before you touch her." Marcus paid Pete $40 for the trailer rental. Pete said he could return it the next morning. Marcus thanked him and drove back to the auction. When Marcus got back to the fairgrounds, most of the crowd was gone. Only a few trucks remained. The thin mare was still in her pen, still standing in the same place. Marcus parked near the loading area and walked over to her. "Hello again, girl," Marcus said softly. "Time to go home." The mare lifted her head and looked at Marcus. She seemed to recognize him. Marcus opened the gate to her pen and stepped inside. His heart was beating fast. This was the first time he had been in a pen with a horse. The mare did not move as Marcus approached. She let him touch her neck and shoulder. Her coat felt rough and dirty under his hand. Marcus could feel her ribs through her skin. She was much thinner than she had looked from outside the pen. Marcus took the halter and slowly put it on the mare's head. She stood still and let him do it. Pete had said this might be the hardest part. but the mare seemed to know what was happening. Marcus clipped the lead rope to the halter and gently pulled. The mare took a step forward, then stopped. She was breathing hard from just that little bit of movement. "Come on, girl," Marcus said. "Just a little further." Step by step, Marcus led the mare out of the pen. She was limping badly on her right back leg. Each step seemed to hurt her. Marcus felt terrible for making her walk, but he had no choice. Other people at the auction stopped to watch. Marcus heard someone say, "That poor horse can barely walk. Why did that man buy her?" Marcus tried to ignore the comments. He focused on helping the mare walk slowly toward his trailer. It took 10 minutes to go 50 feet. The mare had to stop and rest several times. When they reached the trailer, the mare stopped and would not go any further. She looked at the trailer, like it was something scary. Marcus remembered Pete's advice about being patient. "It is okay, girl," Marcus said. "This trailer will take you somewhere better." Marcus let the mare smell the trailer. He led her around it so she could see all sides. Slowly, her fear seemed to lessen. The trailer had a ramp that folded down for loading. Marcus lowered the ramp and showed it to the mare. She sniffed at it but would not step on it. A man who was loading his own horse came over to help. "First time loading her?" he asked. "First time loading any horse," Marcus replied. The man smiled. "Here, let me help you." The man's name was Bill. He had been around horses for 30 years. Bill showed Marcus how to encourage the mare to step onto the ramp. It took almost an hour, but finally the mare walked slowly up into the trailer. Marcus was amazed. He had done it. Bill helped Marcus secure the mare inside the trailer with ropes. "Drive slow," Bill told him. "That horse is not used to being hauled, and she is weak. Stop every 20 minutes to check on her." Marcus thanked Bill and got in his truck. As he pulled away from the fairgrounds, Marcus felt a mix of fear and excitement. He had actually bought a horse. He was bringing her home. But what was he going to do with her? The drive home was the longest 30 minutes of Marcus's life. He drove very slowly. Every bump in the road worried him. He could hear the mare moving around in the trailer behind him. At one point he heard a loud thump, and his heart nearly stopped. But when he looked in his mirror, the trailer was still, following normally. Marcus stopped twice to check on the mare. Both times she was standing quietly. She looked tired and scared, but she was okay. When Marcus turned into his driveway, he saw Sarah standing on the front porch. She was holding a cup of coffee and had a confused look on her face. She was staring at the horse trailer behind Marcus's truck. Marcus parked near their old barn and got out of his truck. Sarah walked over to him with her arms crossed. "Marcus Thompson," she said in a serious voice, "what exactly is in that trailer?" "Well," Marcus said slowly, "I bought a horse." Sarah's eyes got wide. "You bought a what?" "A horse. Her name is—" Marcus stopped. He realized the horse did not have a name. At the auction, they had just called her lot number 47. "She does not have a name yet," Marcus said. Sarah walked to the back of the trailer and looked inside. When she saw the thin, sad mare, her angry expression changed to one of shock. "Oh my goodness," Sarah whispered. "Marcus, what have you done? This poor animal is nearly dead." Marcus felt defensive. "That is why I bought her. Nobody else wanted her. They were going to send her to be made into dog food." Sarah looked at the mare again. Then she looked at Marcus. Her expression was softer now. "How much did you pay for her?" $25, plus fees, and $40 for the trailer rental." Sarah shook her head. "Marcus, we do not know anything about horses. What are we going to do with her?" "I do not know," Marcus admitted, "but I could not just let her die." Sarah was quiet for a moment. She looked at the mare again. The horse was looking back at her with those same sad eyes that had captured Marcus at the auction. "Well," Sarah said finally, "I guess we better get her out of that trailer and figure out what to do next." Marcus felt relief. Sarah was not as angry as he had expected. Together, they lowered the trailer ramp. Marcus went inside and untied the mare. Slowly, carefully, he led her down the ramp. Hope stood in Marcus and Sarah's driveway looking around at her new home. She had never been on this farm before, but she seemed calm. Her head was still hanging low, and she was breathing hard from the trip in the trailer. Marcus held the lead, rope, and did not know what to do next. He had a horse, but he did not have a place to put her. Their barn was old and needed repairs. The fencing around their property was mostly for keeping chickens in, not for keeping horses. "Where are we going? To put her?" Sarah asked. It was the same question Marcus was thinking. Marcus looked around their property. Behind the barn was a small fenced area where they used to keep goats years ago. The fence was not perfect, but it might work for now. "Let's try the old goat pen," Marcus said, "at least until we can figure out something better." Marcus led Hope slowly around the house toward the backyard. She was still limping badly on her right back leg. Every step looked painful. Sarah walked beside them, watching Hope carefully. The goat pen was about 50 feet square with a wooden fence. There was a small shed in one corner that could give Hope shelter from rain. The ground was mostly dirt with some grass growing in patches. Marcus opened the gate and led Hope inside. As soon as he unclipped the lead rope, Hope walked to the far corner and stood with her back to them. She put her head down and did not move. "She looks so sad," Sarah said quietly. Marcus felt sad too. Hope looked lost and scared in the pen. She was far from the auction, but Marcus wondered if she was any happier. "Maybe we should call a veterinarian," Sarah suggested. "She might be sick." Marcus knew Sarah was right. Hope needed medical attention. But Marcus also knew that veterinarians cost money. Money they did not have a lot of. "Let me call Doc Peterson in town," Marcus said. "Maybe he can come out and look at her." Marcus went inside and called the veterinarian's office. The woman who answered the phone said Doc Peterson was busy with other calls. He might be able to come out on Monday, but it would cost $75 just for the farm visit, plus whatever medicine Hope might need. Marcus hung up the phone, feeling worried. $75 was a lot of money for them, but Hope needed help. When Marcus went back outside, he found Sarah standing by the fence watching Hope. The horse had not moved from her corner. "What did the vet say?" Sarah asked. "He can come Monday, but it will cost us $75, just for him to come out here." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Marcus knew she was thinking about their money situation. They lived carefully on Marcus's small pension and Sarah's part-time job. "We will find a way," Sarah said finally. "This horse needs help." Marcus felt grateful for his wife. Sarah had not wanted him to buy Hope, but now she was willing to spend their money to help her. That evening, Marcus and Sarah went to the feed store to buy supplies for Hope. They needed grain, hay, and a water bucket. Pete, the store owner, was still there when they arrived. "How did the loading go?" Pete asked when he saw Marcus. "It went okay," Marcus replied. "She's at our place now, but I need to buy some feed for her." Pete showed them different types of horse feed. "That mare is so thin you need to be careful," Pete explained. "You cannot just give her a lot of food right away. Her stomach needs time to get used to eating again." Pete helped them choose a special feed for thin horses. It was more expensive than regular horse feed, but it would be easier for Hope to digest. "Give her just 2 pounds twice a day to start," Pete said. "And make sure she has fresh water all the time. After a week, you can slowly give her more." Marcus and Sarah also bought hay and a large water bucket. The total cost was $60. That was a lot of money for them, but they knew Hope needed good food. When they got home, it was starting to get dark. Marcus carried the water bucket to Hope's pen and filled it from their garden hose. Hope watched him but did not come over to drink. Sarah brought Hope's first small meal of grain in a feed bucket. They put it near the water and stepped back. Hope did not move toward the food. "Maybe she is afraid to eat in front of us," Sarah suggested. Marcus and Sarah went inside for their own dinner. Every few minutes, one of them would look out the window toward Hope's pen. By bedtime, Hope still had not touched her food or water. Marcus could not sleep that night. He kept thinking about Hope standing alone in the dark. Several times he got up and looked out the window. He could see her shape in the corner of the pen. She had not moved. The next morning was Sunday. Marcus got up early and went outside to check on Hope. The grain was still in the bucket, untouched. The water bucket was also full. "She has not eaten or drunk anything," Marcus told Sarah when she came outside. Sarah looked worried. "That is not good. How long can a horse go without water?" Marcus did not know. He wished he knew more about horses. He felt like he was failing Hope already. "Maybe we should call the emergency vet," Sarah suggested. Marcus knew that would cost even more money. But if Hope would not eat or drink, she could die. Before they could decide what to do, Hope finally moved. She walked slowly to the water bucket and took a long drink. Then she moved to the grain bucket and began to eat. Very slowly and carefully, but she was eating. Marcus and Sarah watched from their kitchen window. They did not want to bother Hope while she was finally eating. It took her almost an hour to finish the small amount of grain. "I think she was just scared," Sarah said. "She needed time to feel safe." Over the next few days, Marcus and Sarah developed a routine with Hope. Marcus would give her grain in the morning and evening. Sarah would check her water bucket during the day. They tried not to bother her too much, but they watched her carefully. Hope was eating and drinking now, but she still seemed very sad. She spent most of her time standing in the same corner of the pen. Sometimes Marcus would see her lying down, which made him worry. Pete had told him that horses usually only lie down when they are very tired or very sick. On Monday, Doc Peterson came to examine Hope. He was an older man who had been a veterinarian for 30 years. He had kind eyes and gentle hands. Doc Peterson spent a long time looking at Hope. He listened to her heart and lungs with his stethoscope. He looked at her teeth and eyes. He examined her injured leg carefully. "This horse has been through a lot," Doc Peterson told Marcus and Sarah. "She is severely underweight. I would guess she has not had proper food for months." The veterinarian showed them Hope's ribs, which were clearly visible under her skin. A healthy horse should have some fat covering her ribs. This mare is skin and bones. Doc Peterson also examined Hope's injured leg. "This looks like an old injury, maybe from a fall or accident. The bones healed, but not correctly. She will always have a limp." "Will she be in pain?" Sarah asked. "Some pain, yes. But horses are tough animals. She can learn to live with it." Doc Peterson gave Hope a shot to help with infection. He also gave Marcus and Sarah vitamins to mix in her grain. The total cost was $120. "The good news is that she is not dying," Doc Peterson said. "With proper care and feeding, she should get stronger. But it will take time, maybe months." After Doc Peterson left, Marcus and Sarah felt both relieved and worried. Hope was going to be okay, but taking care of her was going to cost more money than they had planned. That evening, Marcus sat on the fence of Hope's pen. Hope was eating her dinner grain. Marcus talked to her quietly while she ate. "You're going to be all right, Hope," Marcus said. "Sarah and I will take care of you. You do not have to be scared anymore." Hope lifted her head and looked at Marcus. While he talked, her ears moved forward, which meant she was listening. For the first time since he bought her, Marcus thought Hope looked a little bit interested in something. "I know you have been hurt," Marcus continued, "but this is your home now. Nobody is going to hurt you here." Hope finished her grain and walked slowly to her water bucket. She was still limping, but Marcus thought she moved a little easier than she had a few days ago. That night, Marcus slept better. Hope was eating and drinking. The veterinarian said she would be okay. It was going to take time and money, but Marcus felt like they had made the right decision. Sarah found Marcus the next morning sitting on the porch with his coffee, looking toward Hope's pen. "What are you thinking about?" Sarah asked. "I am thinking about how scared she must have been at that auction," Marcus replied. "All those people laughing at her, thinking she was worthless." Sarah sat down next to Marcus. "But you saw something different." "I do not know what I saw," Marcus said. "I just knew I could not let them send her away to be killed." They sat quietly for a few minutes watching Hope eat her morning grain. She was eating a little faster now, which Doc Peterson had said was a good sign. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Marcus asked. Sarah reached over and took his hand. I think we did exactly what we were supposed to do. Hope lifted her head from her grain bucket and looked toward the house. For just a moment, Marcus thought he saw something different in her eyes. They were still sad, but maybe not as hopeless as before. She is going to be beautiful someday, Sarah said quietly. Marcus hoped his wife was right. Right now, Hope was still very thin and sad-looking. Her coat was dull and her mane was tangled. But sometimes, when the morning sun hit her just right, Marcus could imagine what she might look like when she was healthy. We will just take it one day at a time, Marcus said. 3 weeks after bringing Hope home, Marcus noticed the first real change. When he walked to her pen with the morning grain, Hope lifted her head and looked toward him. Before this, she would always keep her head down and ignore people. Good morning, Hope, Marcus said as he approached her pen. Hope watched him but did not move away from her usual corner. Marcus opened the gate and stepped inside with the grain bucket. Usually he would set the bucket down and leave quickly, but today he decided to stay and watch Hope eat. Hope waited until Marcus stepped back before she came to the grain bucket, but instead of turning her back to him like usual, she ate while facing Marcus. This was a small thing, but it made Marcus feel happy. Sarah, Marcus called toward the house. Come see this. Sarah came outside in her bathrobe and slippers. What is it? She asked. Hope is eating while looking at me. Marcus said proudly. Sarah smiled. That is good, right? Yes. It means she is starting to trust us. Sarah came to the fence and watched Hope eat. She does look a little better. Her coat seems shinier. Marcus had noticed this too. Hope's dark brown coat was starting to show its natural color. She was still very thin, but not as thin as 3 weeks ago. Doc Peterson had told them to increase Hope's grain slowly. Now she was eating 4 pounds twice a day. She was also eating hay throughout the day. Marcus could see that her ribs were not as visible as before. I think we should try to brush her, Sarah suggested. Her mane is so tangled. Marcus was not sure about this. Hope still did not like people to touch her much. When Marcus had to put the halter on her for Doc Peterson's visit, Hope had been nervous and jumpy. Maybe we should wait a little longer, Marcus said. Let her get more comfortable with us first. But Sarah was already thinking about it. That afternoon, she drove to Pete's feed store and bought a soft brush for horses. She also bought some conditioner for Hope's mane and tail. When Sarah came home, she found Marcus sitting in a chair he had brought to Hope's pen. He was just sitting quietly while Hope ate hay nearby. What are you doing? Sarah asked. Just spending time with her, Marcus replied. I read in a book that horses like company, even if you are not doing anything. Sarah looked at the book in Marcus's lap. It was called Basic Horse Care from the library. You got a book about horses? Sarah asked. I got 3 books, Marcus said. I figure we better learn what we are doing. Sarah was impressed. Marcus was not much of a reader usually, but here he was studying books about horses. What have you learned? Sarah asked. Marcus showed her a page in the book. It says here that horses are social animals. They like to be around other horses or people. Hope has been alone for a long time. That is part of why she is so sad. Sarah sat down in the grass near Marcus's chair. Hope looked at them both, but kept eating her hay. The book also says that horses remember everything, Marcus continued. Good things and bad things. If someone was mean to Hope before, she will remember that. But if we are kind to her, she will remember that too. This made Sarah feel sad and hopeful at the same time. Sad because Hope had obviously been hurt by people before. Hopeful because it meant Hope could learn to trust again. Over the next few days, Marcus and Sarah spent more time just sitting near Hope's pen. They did not try to touch her or make her do anything. They just wanted her to get used to having people around. Slowly, Hope began to show more interest in them. When Marcus came with grain, Hope would walk toward the gate instead of waiting in her corner. When Sarah sat by the fence reading a book, Hope would graze nearby instead of far away. One morning, Marcus was sitting in his chair when Hope did something amazing. She walked right up to him and sniffed his hand. Her nose was soft and warm against his palm. Easy, girl, Marcus said quietly. He did not move his hand. He let Hope decide what she wanted to do. Hope sniffed Marcus's hand for a long moment. Then she touched his hand gently with her nose. It was like she was saying hello. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. It was such a small thing, but it felt huge. Hope was choosing to trust him. Sarah, Marcus called softly. Come here slowly. Sarah came out of the house and walked quietly to the pen. When she saw Hope standing close to Marcus, her face lit up with a big smile. Oh my, Sarah whispered. Look at that. Hope turned her head and looked at Sarah. For a moment, all three of them just stayed still. Hope was not afraid. She was just curious about these people who had been so kind to her. From that day on, Hope began to change more quickly. She would come to the fence when Marcus or Sarah approached. She would let them touch her nose and neck. She even started to make soft nickering sounds when she saw them coming. A horse's nicker is a gentle sound they make to greet friends. When Marcus heard Hope nicker for the first time, he nearly cried. It meant Hope thought of them as friends. Sarah decided it was time to try brushing Hope. She brought the soft brush to the pen and showed it to Hope. Hope sniffed the brush and seemed to understand what it was for. Can I brush you, sweet girl? Sarah asked in a gentle voice. Sarah started by brushing Hope's neck very lightly. Hope stood still and seemed to enjoy it. Her eyes half closed like she was relaxed. She likes it, Marcus said with amazement. Sarah brushed Hope's neck and shoulder for a few minutes. Hope's coat was getting shinier every day and the brushing made it look even better. We should try to untangle her mane, Sarah said. Hope's mane was long but very tangled from months of not being cared for. Sarah used the conditioner and worked very patiently to get the tangles out. Hope stood perfectly still the whole time. When Sarah was finished, Hope's mane hung straight and smooth down her neck. She looked like a different horse. Hope, you are beautiful, Sarah told her. Marcus thought Hope looked proud of herself. She carried her head a little higher and walked with more confidence. Doc Peterson came for a follow-up visit 6 weeks after. Hope came to live with Marcus and Sarah. He was amazed by the change in her. This is the same horse? Doc Peterson asked. Hope had gained weight and muscle. Her coat was shiny and her eyes were bright. She still limped, but she moved with more energy. She looks wonderful, Doc Peterson said. You folks have done an excellent job. The veterinarian examined Hope again. Her heart and lungs sounded strong. Her teeth looked better because she was eating well. Even her injured leg seemed to bother her less. Can she be ridden? Marcus asked. Doc Peterson thought about this carefully. Maybe someday, but not for a long time. And even then, only very gently. Her leg will never be completely normal. Marcus was okay with this. He had not bought Hope to ride her. He had bought her to save her life. What about other horses? Sarah asked. Would Hope like to have a friend? Doc Peterson smiled. Horses do love company. But Hope seems happy with you two as her friends right now. After Doc Peterson left, Marcus and Sarah felt proud of what they had accomplished. Hope was healthy and happy. She trusted them completely now. That evening, Marcus was sitting in his chair by Hope's pen when something wonderful happened. Hope walked over to him and rested her head on his shoulder. She stood there quietly while Marcus gently scratched her neck. You are a good girl, Hope, Marcus said softly. I am so glad we found each other. Hope made a soft blowing sound through her nose. It was like she was saying, I am glad too. Sarah came outside and saw them together. Look at you two, she said with a smile. Hope lifted her head and looked at Sarah. Then she walked over to Sarah and nuzzled her hand. I think she wants to say thank you, Sarah said. Marcus stood up and put his arm around his wife. They both watched Hope graze peacefully in the evening light. Do you remember how scared and sad she was when we brought her home? Sarah asked. Marcus remembered very well. Hope had been like a broken spirit. She would not eat or drink. She would not look at people. She had given up hope. "Look at her now," Marcus said. Hope was walking around her pen, exploring and eating grass. Her head was up and her ears were forward. She looked alert and interested in the world around her. "She knows she is loved," Sarah said. Marcus knew his wife was right. Love had made all the difference for Hope. Not just food and shelter, but the feeling of being wanted and cared for. "I have been thinking," Marcus said, "maybe we should make her pen bigger, give her more room to move around." Sarah liked this idea. "We could fence in part of the back field. She would like having more grass to eat." Marcus started planning the project in his mind. It would cost some money for fencing materials, but they could afford it now. Marcus had picked up some part-time carpentry work to help pay for Hope's care. That night, Marcus and Sarah sat on their porch planning Hope's new pasture. Hope stood at her fence watching them, like she knew they were talking about her. "I never thought I would own a horse," Marcus said. "I never thought I would love a horse this much," Sarah replied. They could hear Hope moving around in her pen. She was not standing in the corner anymore. She was exploring and moving freely. She had learned that she was safe here. As Marcus and Sarah went inside for the night, Hope nickered softly at them. It was her way of saying good night. Marcus looked back at Hope one more time before going inside. 6 weeks ago, nobody wanted this horse. People laughed at her and called her worthless. Now she was the center of Marcus and Sarah's world. "Sweet dreams, Hope," Marcus called to her. 3 months after Hope came to live with Marcus and Sarah, she had become a completely different horse. Her weight was normal now, and her coat shined like dark chocolate in the sunlight. Her mane flowed smooth and black down her neck. When people saw her, they could hardly believe she was the same thin, sad horse from the auction. Marcus had built Hope a bigger pasture just like he promised. It was half an acre of good grass with a shelter shed and fresh water. Hope spent her days, grazing and moving freely around her new space. But the most amazing change was in Hope's personality. She had gone from a broken, fearful horse to a confident and curious one. She would trot to the fence whenever she saw Marcus or Sarah coming. She loved attention and being brushed. She even played with a rubber ball that Sarah had bought her. One morning, Marcus was watching Hope move around her pasture when he noticed something interesting. Despite her limp, Hope moved with unusual grace. When she trotted, her injured leg did not slow her down much. She had learned to adjust her gait in a way that looked almost elegant. "Sarah, come watch Hope for a minute," Marcus called to his wife. Sarah came outside and they both watched Hope move across the pasture. She was following a butterfly, stepping carefully but with surprising coordination. "Look how she moves," Marcus said. "Even with her bad leg, she is graceful." Sarah had noticed this too. She holds herself differently now, like she is proud. Marcus had been reading more books about horses. He learned that some horses were born with natural athletic ability. Even injured horses could show signs of their breeding and training. "Wonder what kind of horse she is," Marcus said. "I mean, what breed?" This was something Marcus had been curious about for weeks. Hope was clearly not just any farm horse. Her build and the way she moved suggested she might be something special. "Maybe we could find out," Sarah suggested. "Did the auction keep records about where she came from?" Marcus thought this was a good idea. The next day he drove to the county fairgrounds where the auction was held. He found the office and asked to speak to someone about Hope. The woman in the office remembered the thin mare that almost nobody wanted. She looked through her paperwork and found Hope's information. "She came from a farm about 60 miles north of here," the woman said. "The owner's name was Janet Miller. That is all the information we have." Marcus wrote down Janet Miller's name and the general location of her farm. When he got home, he told Sarah what he had learned. "Should we try to contact this Janet Miller?" Sarah asked. Marcus was not sure. Part of him wanted to know Hope's history, but part of him was afraid of what he might learn. What if Hope had been hurt or mistreated? What if learning about her past would upset her? "Maybe we should just leave it alone," Marcus said. "Hope is happy now. Does it matter what happened before?" But Sarah was more curious. What if Hope had a good life before something bad happened? What if there are people who loved her and wondered what happened to her? This made Marcus think. Maybe Hope's story was not all sad. Maybe there were good memories too. That evening, Marcus called directory assistants and asked for Janet Miller's phone number. There were 3 Janet Millers in the area. Marcus decided to try calling them. The first Janet Miller had never owned horses. The second one had moved away years ago. But the third, Janet Miller gasped when Marcus described Hope. "You are talking about Midnight's Dream," Janet said, her voice full of emotion. "Is she all right? Is she still alive?" Marcus was confused. Midnight's Dream? Is that what you called her? That was her registered name, Janet explained. But we called her Midnight for short. She was my daughter's horse. Janet Miller told Marcus an amazing story. Hope, or Midnight's Dream, had been a champion dressage horse. Dressage is a type of riding where horses perform precise movements like dancing. Midnight had won many competitions and had been worth thousands of dollars. She was the most beautiful, talented horse, Janet said. My daughter Emma trained her from the time Midnight was 3 years old. They were a perfect team. Marcus listened with growing amazement. Hope had been a champion? It was hard to believe. What happened to her? Marcus asked. Janet's voice became sad. 3 years ago, Midnight had an accident in the pasture. She got her leg caught in some old fencing and injured it badly. We spent thousands of dollars on veterinary care, but the leg never healed properly. This explained Hope's limp. Marcus felt sad thinking about Hope being hurt and unable to do what she loved. Emma was away at college when it happened, Janet continued. By the time she came home, Midnight was so depressed and painful to watch. Emma made the difficult decision to retire her from competition. But how did she end up at the auction? Marcus asked. Janet was quiet for a moment. Emma got married last year and moved to California. I could not afford to keep Midnight anymore. She was not rideable and I had to sell my farm. I thought I found her a good home with someone who promised to care for her, but apparently that person did not keep their promise. Marcus felt angry at the person who had let Hope get so thin and neglected, but he also felt amazed. Hope was not just any horse. She was a champion. Would you like to see her? Marcus asked. She is doing very well now. Janet started crying on the phone. Oh yes, I would love to see Midnight again, and Emma would want to know she is safe. They arranged for Janet to visit the next weekend. Marcus was excited but also nervous. What would Janet think of Hope's condition now? What would Hope think about seeing someone from her past? Marcus told Sarah about the phone call. Sarah was as amazed as Marcus had been. Hope was a champion horse? Sarah said with disbelief. Our Hope? Midnight's Dream, Marcus said. That was her real name. Sarah looked out at Hope, who was grazing peacefully in her pasture. No wonder she moved so gracefully. She was trained to be elegant. That week, Marcus and Sarah looked at Hope with new eyes. Now they could see signs of her training and breeding. The way she held her head, the way she stepped carefully even with her limp, the intelligence in her eyes. Do you think she remembers being a champion? Sarah asked. Marcus had wondered the same thing. Did Hope remember the competitions and the crowds? Did she miss her old life? When Saturday came, Marcus and Sarah were nervous about Janet's visit. They had made Hope's pasture extra clean and had brushed her until she gleamed. Janet Miller arrived at noon in a small car. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and gray hair. When she got out of her car and saw Hope in the pasture, she started crying immediately. Oh, Midnight, Janet called softly. Look at you, beautiful girl. Hope heard Janet's voice and lifted her head. For a moment, Hope stood very still, looking at Janet. Then something amazing happened. Hope nickered loudly and began walking quickly toward the fence. She remembered Janet. She knows you, Sarah said with wonder. Janet climbed over the fence, and Hope came right to her. Janet hugged Hope's neck and cried while Hope nuzzled her shoulder. I am so sorry, Midnight, Janet whispered. I am so sorry I could not keep you. Marcus and Sarah watched with tears in their eyes. It was clear that Hope and Janet had loved each other very much. "Look how healthy she is," Janet said, stepping back to look at Hope. "When I last saw her, she was so depressed. She would barely eat." Marcus told Janet about Hope's condition when he bought her at the auction. Janet was horrified to learn how thin and sad Hope had been. "The person I sold her to promised me they would take good care of her," Janet said angrily. "They said they wanted a gentle horse for their children to ride." "Well, she is in good hands now," Sarah said firmly. Janet spent the afternoon with Hope, brushing her and talking to her. Hope seemed happier than Marcus had ever seen her. She pranced around the pasture showing off for Janet. "She still has that spark," Janet said with pride. "Even after everything that happened to her." Before Janet left, she gave Marcus and Sarah a photo album. It was full of pictures of Hope as Midnight's dream. Pictures of her winning competitions, pictures of her with Emma, pictures of her looking proud and strong. "I want you to have these," Janet said, "so you can see what a special horse you saved." Marcus and Sarah looked through the album that evening. They could hardly believe the elegant horse in the photos was the same horse they had rescued from the auction. In one photo, Hope was wearing a blue ribbon and a fancy bridle. Her neck was arched proudly and her coat gleamed. She looked like a completely different horse from the broken animal Marcus had bought for $25. "She was beautiful," Sarah said. "She still is beautiful," Marcus replied, "just in a different way." That night, Marcus sat by Hope's fence looking through the photo album. Hope came over and stood beside him, like she was looking at the pictures, too. "You had quite a life before you came here, did not you, girl?" Marcus said to Hope. Hope nuzzled the photo album gently like she was remembering. "But you know what?" Marcus continued. "I think your best life is right here with us. You do not have to be a champion anymore. You just have to be Hope." Hope made a soft sound and rested her head on Marcus's shoulder. It was like she was saying she agreed. Marcus realized that Hope's past as a champion did not change anything about their relationship. He had not fallen in love with Midnight's Dream, the IUA champion. He had fallen in love with Hope, the broken horse who needed saving. And Hope had not needed to be a champion to win Marcus and Sarah's hearts. After Janet's visit, Marcus could not stop thinking about Hope's past as a champion dressage horse. He found himself watching her movements more carefully, trying to see signs of her former training. One morning, while cleaning Hope's water bucket, Marcus noticed something interesting. When Hope walked toward him, she lifted her feet higher than most horses. Her steps were precise and balanced even with her limp. "Sarah, watch Hope walk," Marcus called to his wife. Sarah came outside and watched Hope move across her pasture. "She does walk differently than other horses I have seen," Sarah agreed. "More elegant somehow." Marcus had an idea that seemed crazy, but he could not get it out of his head. What if Hope could do some of her old movements again? Not for competition, but just for exercise and fun. "Do you think we could work with Hope on some basic training?" Marcus asked Sarah. "Nothing hard, just gentle exercise." Sarah looked at him with surprise. "Marcus, we do not know anything about horse training and Hope's leg." "I know," Marcus said quickly, "but what if we could find someone to help us, someone who knows about horses like Hope?" Marcus had been reading about horse rehabilitation. He learned that many horses with injuries could still do light exercise if it was done carefully. The exercise could even help them feel better. "Let me make some phone calls," Marcus said. Marcus called several horse trainers in the area. Most of them were not interested in working with an injured horse, but one trainer, a woman named Lisa Chen, was curious about Hope's story. Lisa was a physical therapist who had started working with horses 5 years ago. She specialized in helping injured horses regain their confidence and movement. "I would like to meet this horse," Lisa told Marcus. "What you describe sounds like she might benefit from therapeutic exercise." Lisa came to visit Hope the following weekend. She was a small woman with gentle hands and a calm voice. Hope was suspicious of her at first, but Lisa was patient and let Hope get used to her slowly. "She has good muscle development for a horse who has been inactive," Lisa observed as she watched Hope move. "And look at how she carries herself. This horse has not forgotten her training. Lisa asked Marcus to put a halter on Hope and lead her around the pasture. As they walked, Lisa watched Hope's movement carefully. Her limp is permanent, but she has adapted well, Lisa said. See how she compensates with her other legs? That takes intelligence and body awareness. Lisa explained that many former competition horses become depressed when they can no longer do what they were trained for. It was like an athlete who could no longer play their sport. But with the right approach, we might be able to help Hope remember some of her old movements, Lisa said. It would not be about competition. It would be about giving her a sense of purpose again. Marcus and Sarah were excited about this possibility. But they were also worried about the cost. They had already spent a lot of money on Hope's care. Let me work with her a few times for free, Lisa offered. I am interested in her case. If we see good results, we can talk about a regular schedule. Lisa's first session with Hope was simple. She just led Hope through basic walking exercises, asking her to stop, start, and turn in response to gentle cues. Hope seemed to remember these commands immediately. Her ears were forward and she looked interested in the work. It was like she was happy to have a job again. Look at her expression, Sarah said to Marcus. She looks proud. After the session, Hope seemed more energetic than usual. She moved around her pasture with more spring in her step, despite her limp. I think she enjoyed that, Marcus said. Lisa returned the next week for another session. This time she asked Hope to do more complex movements. She asked Hope to step sideways and to back up in a straight line. Again, Hope remembered everything. Her movements were not perfect because of her injury, but they showed the grace and precision of her former training. This is remarkable, Lisa said. Most horses forget their training after being out of work for so long. Hope has retained everything. By the third session, Lisa was teaching Hope to do simple dressage movements again. Nothing strenuous, just basic patterns that would exercise her mind and body. Hope responded like a flower opening to sunlight. She arched her neck proudly and moved with the elegance that had made her a champion years ago. Marcus and Sarah watched in amazement. Their rescue horse was becoming a performer again. Is this good for her leg? Sarah asked Lisa. Actually, yes, Lisa replied. The controlled movement is helping her develop better balance, and the mental stimulation is wonderful for her overall health. Word about Hope's progress began to spread in the local horse community. Other horse owners were curious about the rescue horse who was relearning dressage. One day, a woman named Carol visited to see Hope work with Lisa. Carol ran a therapeutic riding program for disabled children. She watched Hope's session with great interest. This horse has something special, Carol told Marcus after the session. Would you consider letting her work with our program? Carol explained that therapeutic riding helped children with physical and mental disabilities. The horses used in these programs needed to be calm, patient, and responsive. Hope's own story of overcoming challenges would inspire the children, Carol said, and her gentle nature would make her perfect for the program. Marcus and Sarah were intrigued by this idea. It would give Hope an even greater purpose than just exercise. What would it involve? Sarah asked. Carol explained that Hope would need additional training to work with disabled children. She would need to learn to stand perfectly still while children were helped onto her back. She would need to remain calm around wheelchairs and medical equipment. It is challenging work, Carol said. But I think Hope has the temperament for it. Marcus looked at Hope, who was grazing peacefully after her training session. It was hard to believe this was the same broken horse he had bought at auction 6 months ago. What do you think, Hope? Marcus asked the horse. Want to help some kids? Hope lifted her head and looked at Marcus like she was listening to his question. Then she walked over to the fence and nuzzled his hand. Marcus took this as a yes. Carol arranged for Hope to visit the Therapeutic Riding Center for an evaluation. The center was located on a large farm with an indoor arena and special equipment for helping disabled children onto horses. When Hope arrived at the center, she was calm and curious about her new surroundings. Carol introduced Hope to the various equipment she would need to get used to. There were mounting ramps, wheelchairs, and medical devices that made various sounds. Hope sniffed everything carefully but showed no fear. She is very confident, Carol observed. That is essential for this work. Carol asked Marcus to lead Hope around the arena, while she made different noises and movements. Hope remained calm and focused on Marcus, even when Carol dropped a metal bucket behind her. Outstanding, Carol said. She has the perfect temperament for therapeutic work. The next step was to introduce Hope to some of the children who used the program. Carol arranged for 3 children to meet Hope on a quiet afternoon. The first child was a 10-year-old girl named Amy, who had cerebral palsy. Amy used a wheelchair and had limited control of her movements. But when she saw Hope, her face lit up with joy. "She is beautiful," Amy said in a soft voice. Marcus led Hope closer so Amy could touch her nose. Hope stood perfectly still while Amy's shaky hand stroked her face. "She is so gentle," Amy whispered. The second child was a 12-year-old boy named David who had autism. David was often anxious around new people and situations, but he walked right up to Hope without any fear. "Can I brush her?" David asked. Carol gave David a soft brush, and he spent 20 minutes carefully brushing Hope's neck and shoulder. Hope seemed to enjoy the attention and stood quietly the entire time. The third child was an 8-year-old girl named Maria, who had been in a car accident and was relearning to walk. Maria was using crutches and was afraid of falling. But when she saw Hope, Maria forgot about her fear. Hope seemed to sense that Maria needed extra gentleness. She lowered her head so Maria could reach her more easily. "I think she likes me," Maria said with a big smile. After meeting the children, Carol was convinced that Hope would be perfect for the therapeutic program. "She has an intuitive understanding of each child's needs," Carol told Marcus and Sarah. "That is very rare, even in trained therapy horses." Marcus and Sarah agreed to let Hope join the therapeutic riding program 2 days a week. On those days, Hope would help children learn balance, coordination, and confidence. The first official session was with Amy, the girl with cerebral palsy. Amy had never been on a horse before and was nervous but excited. With help from 2 assistants, Amy was carefully placed on Hope's back. Hope stood absolutely still during the entire process, even though it took several minutes. Once Amy was settled, Marcus led Hope slowly around the arena. Amy's face showed pure joy as she experienced the gentle rocking motion of riding. "I am flying," Amy said with wonder. After the session, Amy's mother had tears in her eyes. "I have never seen Amy so happy," she told Marcus. "Thank you for sharing your horse." Marcus felt a pride he had never experienced before. Hope was not just a rescued horse anymore. She was a healer, helping children overcome their own challenges. That evening, Marcus sat with Hope in her pasture and told her about the 1 year after Marcus bought Hope at the auction. She had become the star of the therapeutic riding program. Children who had never walked were experiencing the joy of movement on Hope's back. Kids who were afraid of everything found courage through their connection with her. Hope worked with Carol's program every Tuesday and Thursday. On those days, she would help 4 or 5 children during her sessions. Each child was different, with different needs and different challenges. But Hope seemed to understand exactly what each one needed from her. Marcus loved watching Hope work with the children. She had developed an almost magical ability to sense their emotions and respond appropriately. If a child was scared, Hope would stand extra still and lower her head reassuringly. If a child was excited, Hope would add a little extra spring to her step. One Tuesday morning, Hope was working with a new student named Tommy. Tommy was 7 years old and had been born with spina bifida. He had never used his legs and had always been in a wheelchair. Tommy's parents were nervous about the horse riding session. They worried that Tommy might be afraid or that the experience might be too overwhelming for him. But when Tommy saw Hope, his face lit up with wonder. "She is the most beautiful horse in the world," Tommy announced. Carol and her assistants carefully helped Tommy onto Hope's back. This was always a delicate process that required Hope to stand perfectly still. Hope had learned to be like a statue during these moments. Once Tommy was settled on Hope's back with assistants walking beside him for safety, Marcus began leading Hope around the arena. For the first time in his life, Tommy was experiencing what it felt like to walk. "Look, Mom," Tommy called to his mother. "I am walking, I am really walking." Tommy's mother started crying as she watched her son's joy. The rhythmic movement of Hope's walk was giving Tommy the sensation of using his legs, even though his own legs could not move. After the session, Tommy did not want to get off Hope's back. "Can I stay with her forever?" he asked. Carol explained to Tommy that other children needed their turns with Hope too, but she promised Tommy could come back next week. "Hope will remember you," Carol told Tommy. "She remembers all her friends." This was true. Hope had an amazing memory for the children she worked with. When a child returned for their second or third session, Hope would greet them with soft nickering sounds like she was saying hello to an old friend. Dr. Martinez, a pediatric physical therapist, started coming to observe Hope's sessions. She was amazed by what she saw. "The progress these children are making is remarkable," Dr. Martinez told Carol. "Riding Hope is helping them develop balance, core strength, and spatial awareness. But more than that, it is giving them confidence." Dr. Martinez was particularly interested in Hope's work with Maria, the 8-year-old girl who was relearning to walk after her car accident. Maria had been coming to sessions for 3 months, and her improvement was dramatic. Before she started riding Hope, Maria was afraid to try walking without her crutches, Dr. Martinez explained. But the confidence she has gained from riding has carried over into her other therapy. Indeed, Maria had recently taken her first steps without any assistance since her accident. Her parents credited Hope with giving Maria the courage to try. "Hope showed me I could be brave," Maria told Marcus one day after her session. Word about Hope's therapeutic work began to spread beyond the local community. A reporter from the regional newspaper came to write a story about the former champion horse who was now helping disabled children. The reporter, a woman named Jennifer Walsh, spent a whole day watching Hope work with different children. She interviewed Marcus and Sarah about Hope's rescue and transformation. "This is an incredible story," Jennifer told them. "A horse that was almost put down is now changing children's lives. People need to hear about this." The newspaper article was published on a Sunday and included several photos of Hope working with the children. The headline read, "From Auction House to Healing, How One Man's Compassion Saved a Champion." The article told Hope's complete story, from her days as Midnight's dream to her rescue by Marcus to her new career helping disabled children. It explained how Hope's own journey of overcoming obstacles made her the perfect partner for kids facing their own challenges. The response to the article was overwhelming. The Therapeutic Riding Center received dozens of phone calls from families wanting to enroll their children in the program. Other rescue organizations called to learn about Hope's rehabilitation methods. But the most meaningful response came from Emma, Janet Miller's daughter, who had been Hope's original trainer and rider. Emma called Marcus from California after reading the article online. "I cannot believe this is my Midnight," Emma said, crying on the phone. "When I had to retire her from competition, I thought her useful life was over. I never imagined she could find such an important purpose." Emma told Marcus that she had been feeling guilty for years about giving up Hope after her injury. She had worried that she should have tried harder to find a way to keep her. "But now I see that everything happened for a reason," Emma said. "Midnight needed to go through that difficult time so she could end up where she was truly meant to be." Emma asked if she could visit Hope during her next trip to the area. Marcus and Sarah were happy to arrange this reunion. When Emma came to visit a month later, Hope remembered her immediately. Despite not seeing Emma for over 3 years, Hope nickered with excitement and trotted to the fence as fast as her limp would allow. Emma spent the entire day with Hope, brushing her, talking to her, and watching her work with the children. Emma was amazed by Hope's transformation from competition horse to therapy horse. "She seems happier now than she ever was when we were competing," Emma told Marcus. "Competition was stressful, even though she was good at it. This work seems to bring her joy." Emma was right. Hope loved her work with the children. On the days when she was not scheduled for therapy sessions, Hope would stand at her fence looking toward the road like she was waiting for the children to arrive. Carol noticed this too. Hope has found her calling, she told Marcus. Some horses are born to race, some are born to jump, and Hope was born to heal. The therapeutic riding program decided to honor Hope's contribution by holding a BI special event called Hope's Day. It would be a celebration where all the children who had worked with Hope could show their families what they had learned. The event was held on a beautiful Saturday in late spring. Families gathered around the arena to watch their children demonstrate their riding skills on Hope. One by one, each child took a turn riding Hope around the arena. Some children rode independently with just sidewalkers for safety. Others needed more assistance, but all of them showed pride and confidence as they rode. Tommy, the little boy with spina bifida, had progressed to the point where he could guide Hope through simple turns using the reins. As he rode, he called out to his parents, "Look, I am driving the horse." Amy, the girl with cerebral palsy, had developed enough balance to sit up straight without constant support. Her mother watched in amazement as Amy completed a full circuit of the arena with a big smile on her face. Maria, who was now walking with just a single crutch, rode Hope bareback with only a lead rope. The trust between Maria and Hope was so strong that Maria felt completely safe. "Hope taught me that being different does not mean being broken," Maria told the crowd when it was her turn to speak. Each child's demonstration showed not just their physical progress, but their emotional growth as well. Children who had been shy and withdrawn were now confident and outgoing. Kids who had been afraid to try new things were now eager for challenges. At the end of the demonstrations, Carol presented Hope with a special blue ribbon. But this ribbon was different from the competition ribbons Hope had won as Midnight's Dream. This ribbon said Champion of Hearts and was signed by every child in the program. Marcus attached the ribbon to Hope's halter, and she wore it proudly. The crowd cheered for Hope, and she seemed to understand that the applause was for her. "This horse has touched more lives than we ever imagined possible," Carol announced to the crowd. "Hope proves that sometimes our greatest victories come not from what we achieve for ourselves, but from what we give to others." After the event, Marcus and Sarah sat with Hope in her pasture, looking at all the cards and drawings the children had made for her. Pictures of Hope with hearts and rainbows, thank you notes in shaky handwriting, and photos of the children with their beloved horse. "Do you realize what you have accomplished, girl?" Marcus asked Hope. "You have shown all these children that they can overcome anything." Hope nuzzled the collection of artwork like she was examining each piece carefully. Then she looked at Marcus with those same intelligent eyes that had captured his attention at the auction over a year ago. But now those eyes held something they had not held before. They held contentment and purpose. Hope knew she was exactly where she belonged. Dr. Martinez had been documenting the progress of Hope's students for a research study. Her findings showed that children who participated in therapeutic riding with Hope made faster progress in their other therapies than children who did not. "There is something special about this particular horse," Dr. Martinez told a conference of medical professionals. 2 years had passed since that rainy Saturday when Marcus bought the Saddest horse at the auction. Hope was now 8 years old and had become something no one could have imagined, a local legend. The therapeutic riding program had grown because of Hope's success. More children were being helped and more horses were being trained for the work. But Hope remained special. She was the heart of the program, the horse that every child wanted to meet. Marcus was now 70 years old, and his hair had turned completely gray. But working with Hope had given him energy and purpose he had not felt since his retirement. He had become an expert in horse care and rehabilitation, all because of what he had learned taking care of Hope. Sarah had started volunteering at the Therapeutic Riding Center 3 days a week. She helped with the children and had become almost as attached to them as Hope was. The couple had found a new meaning in their retirement years. On a warm morning in early fall, Carol called Marcus with exciting news. The state fair wanted to feature Hope in a special exhibition about rescue animals. It would be a chance to tell Hope's story to thousands of people. "They want to show how rescue animals can go on to do amazing things," Carol explained. Hope would be the perfect example. Marcus was interested, but he worried about taking Hope to such a busy place. The fair would be crowded and noisy, very different from the quiet therapeutic riding center. What would Hope have to do? Marcus asked. Just a simple demonstration, Carol replied. Maybe show some of her basic movements and her work with one of the children. Nothing stressful. Marcus talked it over with Sarah that evening. They both thought it would be good for people to learn about therapeutic riding and animal rescue, but they wanted to make sure it would not be too much for Hope. She has been through so much already, Sarah said. I do not want her to be stressed. Marcus agreed. They decided to ask Lisa, Hope's trainer, what she thought. Lisa believed Hope could handle the demonstration if it was kept simple and quiet. Hope is confident now, Lisa said. She knows she is loved and safe. I think she would enjoy showing off a little. They decided to accept the invitation. The exhibition would be held on the weekend, and Hope would demonstrate her work for about 15 minutes each day. As the fair approached, Marcus spent extra time preparing Hope. He brushed her coat until it gleamed and braided her mane with small blue ribbons that matched her Champion of Hearts ribbon. You are going to meet a lot of new people, girl, Marcus told Hope as he worked. But do not worry. Sarah and I will be right there with you. Hope seemed to sense that something special was happening. She was more alert and energetic than usual, like she was excited about the upcoming event. The day of the exhibition, Marcus loaded Hope into the trailer early in the morning. The fairgrounds were already busy with people setting up exhibits and getting ready for the crowds. Hope's demonstration area was in a quiet corner of the fairgrounds, away from the loudest attractions. A small arena had been set up with benches for spectators. A banner overhead read, "Second Chances, the Hope Story." When Hope walked into the arena for the first time, she looked around with curiosity, but no fear. The sounds and smells of the fair were new to her, but she trusted Marcus completely. Good girl, Marcus said, stroking her neck. This is going to be fun. The first demonstration was scheduled for 10 o'clock. About 50 people gathered to watch. Marcus felt nervous, but Hope seemed calm and ready. Carol acted as the announcer. She told Hope's story, starting with her days as a champion and continuing through her accident, neglect, rescue, and transformation into a therapy horse. 2 years ago, this horse was considered worthless, Carol told the audience. Today, she is helping children overcome their own challenges and showing them that anything is possible. For the demonstration, Marcus led Hope through some of the basic movements she had relearned with Lisa. Despite her limp, Hope moved with grace and precision. The audience watched in amazement as this rescue horse performed like a trained dancer. Then Amy, now 12 years old and much stronger than when she first met Hope, joined the demonstration. With help from assistants, Amy mounted Hope and rode around the arena. 2 years ago, I could barely sit up by myself, Amy told the audience from Hope's back. Now I can ride this beautiful horse, and I am learning to walk with crutches. Hope taught me to never give up. The audience applauded loudly. Many people had tears in their eyes as they watched the young girl and her special horse. After Amy's ride, other children from the therapeutic program shared their stories. Tommy, now 9 and able to use special leg braces for short periods, talked about how Hope had given him his first experience of walking. Maria, who was now walking normally with just occasional use of a cane, credited Hope with giving her the courage to try again after her accident. Hope showed me that being hurt does not mean being broken forever, Maria said. Each demonstration drew larger crowds. Word spread through the fairgrounds about the amazing rescue horse and the children she was helping. By the afternoon, hundreds of people were gathering to hear Hope's story. Many visitors were amazed to learn that Hope had once been a champion dressage horse. Others were shocked by photos of how thin and sad she had looked at the auction just 2 years before. I cannot believe this is the same horse, one woman said, looking at the before and after photos. She looks like a completely different animal. She is a completely different animal, Marcus replied. She just needed someone to believe in her. On the second day of the exhibition, something unexpected happened. A television news crew arrived to film a story about Hope. The reporter, a woman named Susan Blake, had heard about Hope from a friend who attended the first day's demonstration. This is exactly the kind of positive story our viewers need to hear, Susan told Marcus. Would you be willing to be interviewed? Marcus was nervous about being on television, but he agreed because he thought it might help other rescue animals find homes. The interview took place in Hope's arena, with Hope grazing peacefully in the background. Susan asked Marcus about that first day at the auction and what made him bid on such a sad-looking horse. I honestly do not know what made me raise my hand, Marcus admitted. Something about her eyes, I guess. She looked like she was asking for help. Did you ever imagine she would become a therapy horse? Marcus laughed. I did not even know what a therapy horse was back then. I just wanted to save her life. Susan also interviewed several of the children who worked with Hope. Their stories were so touching that the camera crew had trouble keeping their equipment steady. The news story aired that evening on the local station and was picked up by the national network the next day. Suddenly, Hope's story was being seen by millions of people across the country. The response was overwhelming. The Therapeutic Riding Center received hundreds of phone calls and emails from people wanting to learn more about the program. Donations poured in from people inspired by Hope's story. Other rescue organizations reported increased adoptions as people looked for their own hope to save. Marcus and Sarah were amazed by the impact their quiet horse was having on people they would never meet. But perhaps the most meaningful response came from Janet Miller, Hope's original owner. Janet called Marcus after seeing the news story. I have been crying happy tears all day, Janet told him. When I sold Midnight years ago, I never dreamed she would end up doing something so important. You and Sarah gave her the most wonderful life possible. Janet had one request. Could she bring Emma to see Hope's next demonstration? Emma was visiting from California and wanted to see her old horse's new career. Marcus was happy to arrange this. The following weekend, Janet and Emma came to watch Hope work with the children at the Therapeutic Riding Center. Emma could hardly believe what she saw. The broken, limping horse she had known was now confident and graceful. More importantly, Hope was clearly happy and fulfilled in her work. She has more purpose now than she ever had with me, Emma told Marcus. Competition was about winning ribbons. This is about changing lives. After watching Hope work with 3 different children, Emma asked if she could spend some private time with her former horse. Marcus led Hope to a quiet pasture where Emma could visit with her. Hope remembered Emma immediately and nuzzled her affectionately. Emma talked to Hope for a long time, telling her about her life in California and thanking her for all the joy they had shared together. When it was time to leave, Emma hugged Hope's neck and whispered something in her ear. What did you tell her? Marcus asked. I told her I was proud of her, Emma replied with tears in her eyes. And I told her to keep being wonderful. As Marcus watched Emma say goodbye to Hope, he thought about all the people whose lives had been touched by this remarkable horse. Hope had been a champion in competition, but she had become something much more important, a symbol of resilience and hope for anyone facing challenges. That evening, Marcus sat in his favorite chair by Hope's pasture, watching her graze in the last light of day. Hope looked peaceful and content, occasionally lifting her head to look toward the house where Marcus and Sarah lived. You know, girl, Marcus said to Hope, when I bought you at that auction, I thought I was just saving one horse's life. I had no idea you were going to save so many other lives, too.